So for this question, what we need to do is simplify the algebraic expression below. And we have the expression 5r minus 2p minus 5 times, because that's what the parentheses mean, times p minus 3r plus 2r. Okay. There's something that we should do every single time we see a question like this, and we should follow a three-step process that I like to call BDC. And what BDC stands for, the B stands for box all terms. And that's the first thing we should do. The D stands for distribute if possible. And normally for distribution, what you'll see is you'll see a set of parentheses. That's your indicator that you may have to distribute if there's some value touching the parentheses. And C stands for combine like terms, which we'll be able to find once we finish distributing if possible. So let's go to step one. Step one is to box all terms. So let's draw a long box around everything. Okay, and then go one term at a time. So step one is we're boxing all terms, and we're doing that now. And let's move this over a little bit. Okay, this is the expression that we're working with. So the very first thing is we're going to break this up. The first term that I see so far is positive 5r. Again, I know it's positive because there's no symbol in front of it, so that's automatically positive. And our first term will end at the next plus or minus sign that we see. So we'll drop a line right here. So our first term is positive 5r. Our next term starts here, that's negative 2p, and stops right in front of this minus sign. So our second term is negative 2p. Our third term is touching parentheses, and that's fine. But when it's touching parentheses, that's our touch term. I like to call it the touch term because it's touching parentheses, and that's the value that we're going to use in order to do the distributive property. And we'll get into that next because that's step two. Our next term is negative 5. Okay, we'll drop a line there. Inside of parentheses, I've got positive 1p. Remember that it's automatically a 1 because there's no coefficient written in front of it. So it's automatically positive 1p. And we'll drop a line right in front of the next minus sign. Then our next term is negative 3r. And we'll stop right by the parentheses. We can do it like this too. That's fine because it's still before the next plus or minus sign. And then our last term is positive 2r. So in this expression, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 terms. And we're done with step one. So let's zoom back out. And so we're done with step one. Step one was to box all the terms, and we did that. Now let's go to step two, which is distribute. And we know we have to distribute whenever we have parentheses, but more specifically, whenever we have a number or a constant touching the outside of parentheses. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that touch term and distribute it to each term inside the parentheses. Well, what are the terms inside parentheses, and how many are there? Well, there's two terms inside parentheses. The first term is 1p, and the second term is negative 3r. I'm going to zoom in on just the distribution so we can focus on that. I'll zoom in as much as I can anyways. All right, so let's try to ignore everything else for now. So to ignore that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just draw a box around this stuff, and I'll delete it in a second, but I want us to focus on just this. Let me get rid of that, and I'm going to get rid of that, and let's focus on just that right there. So now we are going to distribute negative 5 times positive 1p. And when we do that, negative 5 times positive 1 is just going to be negative 5p. Okay, that's our first distribution. Our next distribution is the touch term, negative 5, times the second term inside parentheses, which is negative 3r. We've got negative 5 times negative 3r. And when we multiply negative 5 times negative 3r, a negative times a negative will give us a positive. So we know it's going to be a positive term, a positive result. And then we've got 5 times 3, which is 15. And then we also have the variable r that's in that term there. So we'll bring that down and put it next to it. So after a distribution, now that we've done a distribution, we don't have parentheses anymore. And now what we can do is we can just bring down any terms that we haven't used yet. And to see those terms, I'll just erase this here. So I'll go box by box and I'll bring down any terms that we haven't used yet. We haven't used positive 5r, so I'll bring that down. We haven't used negative 2p yet, so I'll bring that down as well. The negative 5 has already been used. We used this, and this already when we did our distribution. So now we've got 5r, negative 2p is our second term, negative 5p is here, positive 15r is here, and positive 2r I can bring down here. So I'll bring down positive or plus 2r. Let's zoom out so we see everything else again. All right, let's move this all over. Zoom out a little more again. Okay. So now we finished step 1, box all the terms. We finished step 2, which is to distribute when possible, which we did. There's no more parentheses, so we cannot distribute anymore. Now we get to step 3, which is to combine all like terms. So now what I would like to do is I would like to box this again a second time. That way it's just a lot easier for us to determine what we can combine. First of all, let's zoom in again so we can focus on just that. All right. So now we have this expression here in the blue box. Okay. And in this expression, let's break it up into the terms that are now in this new expression. This was our first expression before distributing. This is our new expression after distributing. Okay, so let's go term by term. And let's drop a line. So we've got positive 5r. Again, we know it's positive because there's no sign there. So I'll just drop a line there. That's our first term. Our next term starts here and ends before the next minus sign, or plus or minus sign, which is here. So we'll drop a line there. Our next term starts here and ends here. So our next term is negative 5p. Our next term starts here and ends here, which makes it positive 15r, and our final term is positive 2r. And now that we have it broken up into all the terms that are there, we now need to see what like terms we have that we can combine. Like terms are terms with this same exact variable and exponent. A lot of students forget about the exponent part. Remember that this exponent thing is more of an 8th grade topic, so we won't really be seeing much of it. So we mostly look for the variable. However, that doesn't mean to forget about this, because once you get to 8th grade, I want you to make sure you understand that fact. We've got 5r minus 2p minus 5p plus 15r plus 2r. Now I see two different variables here. Well, different terms with variables, but two letters. I see r, I see p. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to make a table that will allow me to neatly combine the like terms that I have. So let's create the box, and when we do this, we'll have two columns. One column is going to be for the variable r, and one is going to be for the variable p. So let's do that now. So let's break it up into r, and p. Okay. So let's take a look at the terms that we have, starting with this one here. We've got 5r, and we'll cross it off. We'll cross off 5r and put it in the r column. We'll make it positive 5r. We've got negative 2p. That's a p term, so we're going to put it in the p column. So that's going to be negative 2p. Now we've got negative 5p. That's another p term, so we'll put it in the p column as well. That's negative 5p. We've got positive 15r, so we'll put that in this column here. And cross it off. And we have positive 2r. We'll cross this off, and we will put it here. We no longer have any terms. We're all done putting terms into the term table, I guess we could call it. And now what we'll have to do is combine each of the terms in our column. So let's do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to literally just add all of these terms here. So we've got in each column. So in the R column, we'll add all these coefficients together. So we're going to add positive 5 plus positive 15 plus positive 2. And when we get that, we get, well, 5 and 15 is 20, and 20 plus 2 is 22. So this is going to be an answer of 22R. And then now we'll go to the P column, and we have negative 2 as our coefficient for the first term. And a coefficient is just a number in front. We've got negative 2 plus negative 5. And when you put that in the calculator, negative 2 plus negative 5, what you get is negative 7. And we still are dealing with the variable p, so we'll write negative 7p. So our final answer is, write that a little bit neater, our final answer is 22R, 22R, and it's positive. You could put a positive sign here, but since it's the first term, you don't need it. And let's put a box around our final answer. Our final answer is 22R minus 7p.